Inspirational Creatives, episode 163. Welcome to Inspirational Creatives. I'm your host, Rob Lawrence. Join me every Friday as I chat with successful artists, producers, and creative entrepreneurs who share powerful stories and strategies. They can help you to create the life that you want. Listen each week as these inspirational creatives show you how to take your creativity to the next level. You'll learn how to create a sustainable business that inspires others and gives you the financial freedom and lifestyle that you want. Thanks for listening. Make sure you sign up at inspirationalcreatives.com to get free exclusive bonus material. And now, on with the show. So my guest today is somebody who has a strong sense of adventure. Having embarked on a trip across Russia alone in a canoe, she soon found herself in hot water with many thousands of people trying to track her down as a spy, allegedly. I first met her at Yestival last year, hitching a ride together from the local station, and today I'm eager to learn more about her forthcoming adventure, which involves swimming, cycling and kayaking around 3 of the Channel Islands. In this 2-part episode, I hope to share with you her expectations before and her reflections after this imminent mission. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you today Laura Kennington. Laura, welcome.
Thank you very much.
So Laura, you're a bit of an explorer, embarking on adventures. Is this something you've always done?
Not in any official capacity. I grew up in Bury St Edmunds in Suffolk on a farm. So, there's always been a bit of adventure there, and I'm the only female sibling. So I think that certainly helped. My brothers and I were always outdoors, but I never really thought of it as a career until very recently.
So what sort of thing did you get up to as a child, and how did your life unfold to this point where you are now embarking on these adventures?
So it's a bit of a mixed bag. So my early childhood was spent in Bury St Edmunds, Suffolk, as I said, on the farm. But I then actually went to a theatre school from the ages of 8 until 16. So I worked in the theatre industry until my early 20s, which is far away from like mud and adventure as you can get, really. And it wasn't until my early 20s that something wasn't quite right. So I just started to return outside, really, and realised how much I'd been missing that, and discovered how much I love sport as well. Like that had been a long forgotten thing. That kind of unleashed everything else, really, because I found that sport was this really powerful tool for connecting with people and for getting the most out of myself as well.
Tell me the story about Russia. What was the background to that trip and what happened?
So the idea behind Russia was just a personal challenge for myself. I heard about this river in a pub quiz, actually. It's Europe's longest river. And as soon as I heard that, I just thought it was such a cool tagline and what a great setting for an adventure. And so it's 2,300 miles long. It's the Volga River in Russia. And I kind of instantly decided after hearing about this river that was something that I wanted to explore for myself. It'd be a really good 3-month adventure. It'd be really physically demanding, and it hopefully would allow me to see Russia in a very unique way that not many tourists kind of get to see. So that was all well and good. I got to the start line and there was a bit of an unexpected curveball. So I got a lot of support for the journey, and actually the support that I got spiraled quite quickly out of control when the trip accidentally somehow went viral over in Russia on the media and in social media especially. So that translated into basically this idea being spread around 20,000 times, like this post about the trip, 20,000 times before I'd actually left Moscow to start, meaning that I was inundated with thousands of messages before actually even starting the journey. As the weeks went on, basically that attention just grew and grew and grew, and it highlighted some safety concerns. So actually I returned home 2 months early.
So what was the reality of that like? The bit of the adventure that you were able to conduct, how did that go?
The early bit was just gorgeous. It's quite remote. You're just going through all these tiny villages, and it was tough because, getting used to kind of 10-hour, 12-hour paddling days was physically quite tough, but it was absolutely beautiful. It's exactly the kind of trip that I was after, that introspective time to just be and kind of focus without a deadline and phone calls and emails and all of that, all of those reasons we go on adventures. As I got a bit closer into civilization, that's when we started to notice. It was kind of like being in a version of Where's Wally, but like I was the target. So it was like, where's Laura? And it just became this kind of little game of people trying to find me at whatever time of night, regardless of if I might be asleep or not. It all got a bit invasive towards the end.
I can imagine a lot of people would be thinking, how safe is it for a lone female to be traveling across Russia? I mean, do you speak Russian for a start?
I spoke a little bit of Russian. I did learn some before I went, and I had a letter of kind of translated in Russian. If that failed, just translating what I was doing, basically. I think it's one of those things. I genuinely think traveling as a female solo adventurer is safe. It wasn't safe in Russia just because it got so very, very public, which just kind of changed the game completely. You know, it's one thing to kind of sneak through and be careful about where you camp and all of those considerations. But the odds were kind of stacked against me because I had people looking out for me and I could only ever be on the left side or the right side of the river. So...
So here we are in May 2016 and you're about to kayak, swim and cycle around the Channel Islands of Jersey, Guernsey and Sark, correct?
Yeah.
So what inspired you to do this trip?
I was looking at doing a circumnavigation of an island in my kayak. I just thought that was quite a cool thing to do. And I was kind of just openly looking at a swimming adventure as well. So I had these two kind of next challenges in mind that I wanted to tick off at some point. And I just ended up looking at a map and noticing how close together Guernsey, Jersey and Sark were. And that seemed a bit rude to kind of not involve them all at once. You know, it was like this golden opportunity, 3 for the price of 1. So...
How's the plan unfolding for you? I mean, what's your plan at this stage?
So it's all coming together really well now. So we're getting the ferry over to Guernsey on the 10th. We've got an apartment in Guernsey. So that's going to be kind of base HQ for the few days. Saturday morning on the 11th, I leave to swim around Sark. Sunday, I'll come back to Guernsey, kayak around Guernsey. And then the next day is the final one, which is the cycle around Jersey. So all going well with weather. Everything's going to be fine.
So how far is that to swim around Sark?
5 miles, depending on tide. So possibly a little bit more, but hopefully not too much. And
that's doable in one go, I guess.
Yeah. Again, hopefully we need to get really lucky with the weather because obviously I can't really swim against bad conditions as much as I can battle against it in a kayak.
And what about Jersey? How far is it to get around Jersey on a bike?
45 apparently very hilly miles.
That's awesome.
Jersey's the only one I haven't visited in advance yet, so I'm just going to have to discover that on the day. That's
pretty exciting. And kayaking around Guernsey sounds like it'll be fun.
Yeah, I think it would just be a really cool way to see the island.
How much distance is that?
So that's about 28 miles, so that'll take anywhere between 7 and 9 hours.
Okay, cool. And so how quickly are you expecting to get yourself around all 3 of these islands?
So the swim, we're hoping for about 5 hours. And then the kayak, again, will be 7 to 9 hours, depending on what the weather's doing. The bike ride actually is a bit more relaxed because I'm inviting local people to kind of get involved as well. So I'm not worried about doing the cycle in a good time. I just kind of want everyone to get involved and have a bit of adventure on the island. And are you going to be doing these activities consecutively, so one straight after the other? I'm doing them on consecutive days, but I can't do them back to back because I need to wait for the tides for the kayak as well. Got it. It'll be Saturday, Sunday and Monday. So how are you preparing for the adventure? I mean, what are you taking? What stuff is already going to be out there for you? And what else is going through your mind at this stage? So most of the preparation has been focused on the swim, for sure. I'm not a swimmer. I mean, I guess I'm in the process of becoming a swimmer, but it's definitely a new discipline for me. So I've really kind of heavily focused my training on that. And that's been a really steep learning curve. I remember kind of the first time I got in a 50-meter pool, like that felt exhausting. Whereas now I'm regularly doing like 3.5K as a training swim and not really blinking about it, which is kind of cool. It's really nice to see that progress. And other than that, it's just making sure that I get my nutrition right. In the early days, I wasn't eating enough during training sessions, and that was kind of having a knock-on effect for recovery as well. So it's just really boring things, actually, like doing a spreadsheet of like the feeding schedule for the support team. So it's nowhere near as glamorous as it seems when you're doing an adventure. There's a lot of spreadsheets. Tell me about your support team. So I've got some local guys helping out for both the Guernsey and Sark sections. And so I've got local kayakers kind of getting involved, providing the support boat, and also they're really experienced in the waters, which is great because it's the 3rd biggest tidal range, I think, in the world. So having their local knowledge is kind of essential. And then I'm bringing a couple of guys with me as well, just to help film and kind of throw Haribo at me when I get tired. Excellent. That sounds great. So what about the bicycle and the kayak? Are you going to pick those up locally, or are you taking your own out there? No, I'm bringing my own. And I'm quite attached to my kayak and bike. I've named them and everything. So
I've got to ask, what are their names?
yeah, so there's an ongoing theme here. They're both named after Disney characters. So the kayak is called Ariel.
Love it.
The Little Mermaid, obviously. And the bike is called Dory from Finding Nemo.
That's amazing. My children will love that.
Good. It's my target audience, I think.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're already getting a lot of support towards this adventure. I know you've been doing some work with the local tourism boards out there too.
They've just been so unbelievably helpful. And I think that's the great thing about when you're approaching a community and trying to show it off in the best way. Because I've fallen a little bit in love with Guernsey, actually, after my first visit. So it's just really great that we kind of can both work together. And their support, again, has been utterly invaluable to have that kind of local contact on the ground helping me while I'm in London.
And what have been some of the challenges around getting organised for this trip? Have you hit any hiccups or changes of plan so far?
I think, as with most things, it's just keeping calm. Like there are, especially, I mean, I know I keep going on about the swim, but I find the swim very intimidating. I've got experience kayaking and I've got experience cycling. So I feel like, if nothing else, I've got some muscle memory there that I can draw on if I get a bit tough. But the swim for me is this big question mark, and I don't really know how that's going to pan out. So yeah, it's staying calm, and also just anytime I felt really uncertain, I've just not been afraid to ask someone else for advice. So my knowledge of tides and everything is okay, but I've gone to someone else specifically to help me plan the route. And that's been really important to kind of know where my weaknesses lie.
So beyond the obvious, is there any other sort of personal achievements that you're hoping to achieve? What's the outcome that you're hoping for?
I just hope that people get the idea that there's so much opportunity for adventure on your doorstep. I chose the Channel Islands because they're about an hour away from London on a flight, so they're really accessible. And it's just that seeing something familiar in a different way, and also that I'm not a swimmer and I'm somehow kind of nearly a marathon swimmer just by kind of stubbornness. Really, I hope encourages people that they can do a lot more than they think. I mean, if I can do it, then certainly anyone else can.
I love that. You mentioned nutrition earlier, and I saw on your Facebook page a quote which says, "I'm not sure why it is, but I love food more than just about anything else." My wife Sandra wants to know what you're planning to eat on your trip, and how are you managing your nutrition? What's going into all of those thoughts?
So for the swim, actually, I'm eating quite a lot of baby food. Because it's quite difficult to digest because I'm face down in the water. It kind of makes it really difficult to digest kind of solids. So there'll be a lot of liquidized kind of smoothies, and I'll be eating little and often for that. So I'll have like half an energy bar every half an hour, and things like that. For the kayak, I just generally have like a bottle full of nuts and chocolate and things like that just to keep me going. And the cycle, again, it's just little and often is key. When it's all over, though, I'm very excited about having a lot of ice cream. That's kind of that'll be the motivation for all of it.
Absolutely, yeah. Channel Island ice cream. That's fantastic. Now, our listener might be eager to try something similar. What would be your best advice for someone looking to do something like this?
First and foremost, I would say absolutely go for it. And then just work out what is stopping you. So what gaps in your knowledge do you need to fill to make sure that you can do it? So I, as I said, had no idea about swimming. So rather than just sit there and be like, oh, well, I can never do a swimming challenge, I enlisted the help of a swimming coach. So there's always a practical way to address kind of where you are and where you need to be in the gap between. So I would just make a list of kind of everything that is outstanding that you would need to do to accomplish it.
And how will you be celebrating? I always think it's really important that you celebrate these things. So
yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, apart from the obvious pizza and ice cream party, it's actually my birthday a couple of weeks later. So I'm going to take a nice weekend away with friends and family as well, just to kind of mark them both, I guess.
Fantastic. And for anyone looking to find out about your trip and also learn more about you, where can they find you?
So the website is childishly named lauraexplorer.com.
Love it.
And then I'm on Facebook as well. So it's Kennington Laura on Facebook, and I'm on Twitter as well at Kennington LA.
So here we are in July 2016, Laura. Your initial aim was to swim, cycle and kayak around Jersey, Guernsey and Sark. So how did it go?
It didn't go as expected, but it still was a completely wonderful turn of events. So each kind of section surprised me in its own right. But yeah, overall it went really well.
Let's talk about your expectations. What elements exceeded your expectations?
So I think the first thing that stands out really is the local people of the Channel Islands. I'd met a couple of them before, but actually on each section, on each day, I was just blown away by the local support. And that was both on Sark, Guernsey and Jersey, like without fail, in each of those islands, like locals just came out in abundance to just cheer me on, which was just blew me away.
What were your disappointments? What didn't go to plan?
So the main hiccup, so I paddled about 17 miles round of the 28, and then because the wind was going up to force 5 or 6, we had to abandon the kayaking section of it. So I had to finish the rest of Guernsey by walking just over a half marathon around the island, which was not obviously the plan A. And actually, when that first happened, I was absolutely gutted because, I had in my mind I was going to circumnavigate in my kayak as a complete expedition. It worked out great, actually, because it was kind of nice to see a different side of the island by foot. But yeah, at the time, that was really tough to adjust to kind of straight away.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, in terms of your mindset then, how were you able to deal with that at the time? What was going through your mind when all of that was sort of unfolding with the weather and the rest of it?
I think for me, it was just really important that I finished. So that stubbornness kicked in straight away. As soon as I found out that I had to come out the water, I was really reluctant, to come off the water in the first place. But then after that, it was just like, okay, well, how do I make the best out of this? If I can't finish it in my kayak, then I'll just have to do it by foot. So it's just, good old stubbornness.
Fantastic. In terms of your own performance, how do you think you performed in terms of what you were hoping for?
So each of the sections, I think, had a different challenge. By day 3, I was just absolutely shattered because the walk had just taken, such a long time. So I was actually on the go for 12 hours the day before the cycle around Jersey, which we just didn't anticipate. But yeah, I mean, overall, actually, it was a really interesting experiment for me, really, because I'd never done anything that intense 3 days in a row. And overall, I think I was really pleased with it. It wasn't always fun, but yeah, knowing that I had that in me and I did just switch off and kind of battle through it was a really nice, satisfied feeling when I got to the end.
Yeah, fantastic. And how did your trusty cycle perform?
Yeah, good. That was actually, that day, just every time I think about it, I have such a huge smile on my face now. So I was totally exhausted, like falling asleep on the ferry, like kind of developing narcolepsy on the way over to Jersey. And I didn't know how many people were going to come. I'd kind of set this invite out saying, come and join in. And I was met actually at the start line by about 12 cyclists. So we had our own little mini peloton going around Jersey.
Oh, wow.
It was just spectacular. Perked me up straight away. And they kind of were talking to me the whole way around. So actually that's probably one of my favourite sections because we had the guy from the Jersey Tourism Board, a guy called James Walker, who also has a company called Ignition Sport, and he'd planned the route. So, I just switched off and, it was like a nice social ride around Jersey, which was ace.
That's fantastic. So you've made some new friends and new connections through this experience.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So knowing what you know now, what would you have done differently? What would you say to the Laura before the trip to help her better prepare?
So for the swim section, I would have done my food completely differently.
Interesting.
I got really sick actually after a couple of hours because I was just ingesting too much salt water. And that was the first kind of proper swim I'd done in the ocean. So I just wasn't used to that much salt water. And I was just basically gagging uncontrollably towards the end. And that didn't mix very well with hot chocolate. I was kind of downing hot chocolate to keep nice and warm. But actually, in hindsight, that probably wasn't a great idea. Yeah. I had food things like I had these snack bars that were just really dry. And actually the first kind of food break came round, the first feeding session. And I managed maybe half a mouthful and I just didn't want it because I just totally underestimated the effect of the salt water and the dryness of the mouth and all of those things. So I definitely tweaked my food strategy.
Have you thought about that anymore in terms of what you would have done differently in terms of what you could try in the future if you did a similar challenge in?
Yeah, for sure. The swim was by far the longest swim I'd ever done. So in many ways, it was just kind of straight in at the deep end, excuse the pun. So I got chafing, really bad chafing around my neck. I looked like I'd been attacked by a werewolf like 2 weeks afterwards. And so all of those kind of little things that you just don't know until you do a swim for a few hours. There's definitely a few things that I'd tweak.
What was the reality of like swimming in the sea? You mentioned the temperature there.
Yeah, so actually, because I'd been training, albeit in the Thames, basically, just by the docks of London, throughout the winter, and my starting temperature there was around 9 degrees, which is absolutely horrendous. The temperature on the day was 12. So actually, all things considered, it wasn't as bad as it could have been. And the sun it wasn't too hot. There was kind of a bit of cloud cover, but I mean, it wasn't, the kind of air temperature was quite warm as well, especially by the time we finished. The sun was really kind of glaring down, so that certainly helped. I got really, really cold towards the end just because I stopped being able to take on any food. But actually, yeah, I think training in winter definitely helped that a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, what's it like to swim in the Thames? I didn't think it was probably the safest of water to...
No, sorry, it's probably not it's the docks. So
okay.
Actually, yeah, sorry, it's not the actual Thames. It's a great facility there, actually. I did all of my training there. I was there twice a week in the run up to the event. And it's really great. I think especially because of the distance I was doing in training, you know, if I did that in a pool, I was kind of going a bit crazy towards the end because you're just pinging back and forth to lap. So actually being able to rack up that distance and look at the buildings around and kind of just be outside is just a much nicer way to train. So yeah, I love it there.
Yeah. Describe the dock. What's it like, that environment, for our listener?
So it's right in the urban, kind of right by Canary Wharf. It's not far from there. It's on the kind of DLR. So it's right in like the city of London. You've got the Emirates cable car kind of going over your head as you swim. And it's just this really unique kind of city bit of wilderness, you know, you're kind of just outdoors swimming with businessmen walking by. It's brilliant.
Wow, yeah, it's quite surreal. So is this a facility that's kind of set up specifically for that sort of thing, or is it? Yeah.
So there's a lot of triathletes that will be training there now. They hire wetsuits as well. And they've also got a little band that will track how far you swim and the water temperature. So they'll email you. It's a company called Noka that run these little like wristbands that you get every time you go in, and they'll email you afterwards. So it's a really good way of keeping yourself accountable as well.
Oh, that's really cool. Fantastic. And most importantly, did you get to eat any ice cream on the Channel Islands?
Absolutely. Because we finished a bit early on the swim and the sun had come out. The first thing we did actually is kind of sit just hanging out in the sunshine of Sark, looking down in the water with ice cream. It was kind of a team priority of every day. So I got some ice cream.
Oh, that's superb. Absolutely superb. So is there anything you'd like to add in terms of your experience that you'd like to share with our listener?
I think the main thing I took away from the weekend is the power of community, for sure, because a lot of my adventures have been solo. I'd never really kind of involved everyone else that much, but from my support crew to the people on the ground, just a really powerful sense of getting other people involved. And actually I'm much more likely to do that as well, because through them working with me, everyone kind of got a piece of the action, which was really special. And then the second thing, I guess, is going back to the swim, which was always, as I said, I think before, my biggest challenge. I hadn't swum for more than I think 2K really before I did the swim, and the swim was around 10K. So just to reiterate actually how much your human body is capable of doing.
So you had 2K practices is what you're saying?
Yeah, so I was only ever in the water for about an hour. I think an hour and a half was my longest training swim. And then, before we did, it was 4 miles in the end. So probably slightly less than 10K actually. But yeah, certainly it was the longest swim I'd ever done.
Yeah, and you found that quite straightforward, did you? It was your body adjusted and kept going in that sense? With
the exception of getting sick towards the end, then I think if you swimming's quite outdoors, especially in the sea, is quite interesting because it's quite such a lonely sport. You just have your head down in the water. And actually, unlike the other disciplines, you can't really talk to anyone. So you're just kind of in your little mental space. But as long as that's something you focused on and your mentality is strong, I definitely think the body follows suit from there.
That's fascinating. Yeah, that mind-body connection in that sense.
Yeah.
Just going back to what you were saying there about the community, how do you feel that helped you in terms of your motivation throughout?
It was such a huge boost. Like at no point I thought I was in it by myself. And because there were other people invested in it as well, it really helped me kind of push on when I was tired because I didn't want to let them down either. And having a huge crowd of people around you, all there just to kind of egg you on and support you. It's just so amazing.
That's absolutely amazing, Laura, to reflect on your experience, having had the conversation with you before. What's next for you right now?
It's a good question. I'm not entirely sure. I've been wrapping up some admin from the trip, so we've been video editing from the Channel Islands and things like that. So I'm looking at a couple of different projects at the moment, but nothing's confirmed just yet.
Fabulous. And for those interested, where can folks find out more about you and follow your adventures?
So the best place really would be my website. It's got links to all my social media on there. So that it's got links to all my social media on there. So that it's got links to all my social media on there. So that it's got links to all my social media on there. So that it's got links to all my social media on there. So that it's got links to all my social media on there. So that it's got links to all my social media on there. So that it's got links to all my social media on there. So that it's got links to all my social media on there. So that it's got links to all my social media on there. So that it's got links to all my social media on there. So that it's got links to all my social media on there. So that it's got links to all my social media on there. So that it's got links to all my social media on there. So that it's got links to all my social media on there. So that it's got links to all my social media on there. So that it's got links to all my social media on there. So that it's got links to all my social media on there. So that it's got links to all my social media on there. So that it's got links to all my social media on there. So that it's got links to all my social media on there. So that it's got links to all my social media on there. So that it's got links to all my social media on there. So that it's got links to all my social media on there. So that it's got links to all my social media on there. So that it's got links to all my social media on there. So that it's got links to all my social media on there. So that it's got links to all my social media on there. So that it's got links to all my social media on there. So that it's got links to all my social media.